Hey friends, it's Chrissy here with Little Roots Ranch, and today I'm going to be building the trellis for my tomatoes. I did some cattle panels here with U-post to support the cherry tomatoes, but I'm using a different type of trellis for both my indeterminate and determinate larger tomatoes. And so this is actually something that's new for me. Oh, turkey boys. This is actually something that's new for me. And so I wanted to share it. And then of course, as the season progresses, I'll also share how it's doing. So basically I grow a lot of different types of tomatoes here. I grow the little cherry ones and then like the saladette. And then of course, both heirloom and hybrid, determinate and indeterminate. And so I'm looking for kind of a one size fits all as far as trellising. And so I'm wondering if these wires might stand the test of time. So basically what I'm doing is I bought a contractor roll of concrete mesh. Now, concrete mesh has the holes, I believe they're 5 by 5 inches, so enough to be able to get your hands in there and harvest the tomatoes or whatnot. The roll itself, it's a little more expensive, but less expensive than say like the cattle panels or, well, basically any type of wire, especially for the strength. The roll is 60 inches tall and it's 150 feet long, and it's, I think, about $230, I believe, 220, 230, something like that. I'll show you all this stuff in just a moment. I also picked up bolt cutters so that way I could cut them, of course, because that's important, and zip ties, because no farm trellis or no farm anything would be complete without having zip ties, and then of course little stakes to put into the ground. And so I wanted to show you how I'm building this, and then, you know, so you can consider it as an option. And then of course, like I said, I'll give updates during my garden tours and stuff like that. The one downside of this mesh is that it is not galvanized, which means that it will rust almost right away. And so I also purchased spray paint in beautiful, fun colors. I picked yellow, red, and blue, the primary colors, and hoping to mix and match them, and I'll have a lot of color in the greenhouse, and hopefully contrasting with a ton of red and yellow and orange tomatoes. So, but I think enough about, oh, I wanted to say one more thing. So I purchased the roll because I plan to make a lot of these cages, but they do sell them in sheets. And so the sheets, I think, are 8 feet long or something, and they're a little more economical than say the entire roll. But depending on how many trellises you're looking to make or other things that you have for it, that might be something that works. What I like about these is that my plan, at least, I'll grow also pole beans on them and a few other things besides just the tomatoes. But when the season's over, is I can clip the zip ties and lie them flat and store them over without having like a bunch of rolls or whatever, and store them flat over the winter and then put them back together in the spring. So that's my plan, at least. We'll see how it goes. But let me take you to the actual process. Again, I purchased a large roll. I plan to cut it into 7-foot sections and then roll it up, support it, or paint it, and then support it, or close the thing with zip ties. And then hopefully it'll be able to yield a whole bunch of amazing tomatoes. Also, just as a side note, if you see there, I did actually get my baby tomatoes out. It's warm today. It's overcast outside, but in the greenhouse right now, I think it's 85 degrees. So I'm pretty warm. But they were outgrowing too rapidly. I don't know why they grew so fast this year, but they did. Maybe it was like the moon or something. And they just weren't flourishing anymore inside. And so I was like, well, I'm either going to start over or put them outside, and then potentially still need to start over and see what happens. Because right now it's the 22nd of April. And so, but yeah, so I've got my little tomato babies out. But anyway, so I'm going to get to showing you the actual process for building the trellises. So just one moment. Okay, so this is the roll that I have, and let me just tell you, it's really, turkey boys, it's really, really heavy. And so I definitely recommend working with 2 people or a few or whatever. But so this roll, like I said, is 150 feet long. And so that's why I have these handy dandy bolt cutters that are also really good at cutting anything fence related. And that includes cattle panels or this concrete mesh, whatever. So earlier I had said that I thought that the squares were 4 or 5 inches by 4 or 5 inches. They're actually 6 inches by 6 inches. And so that's even better because obviously easier to harvest delicious tomatoes. But the first thing that I want to do is to roll it out. Ugh. Sorry, it's heavy. Should put those down. Okay. Oops. So since these are 6 by 6 squares, I want 7 feet, and technically that would be 14 squares. But what also works is having measuring tape. And so right there. And so I grab my handy dandy bolt cutters and I clip all of these. Now, one thing I'll tell you about clipping these is that when you do a couple, it's not so bad. But when you're doing a whole bunch for a tomato trellis, you really want to be careful, or not careful, but it starts to become hard work after a while. Because like the bolt cutters, just operating them in general is like fairly difficult. You also want to, hold on. You also want to be careful because every edge of this is really sharp. But not only that, I don't know if you can see, but like it wants to roll me up like as if I was a little tomato. But let me get this stood up and then I will show you a better view of exactly what they're going to look like. So just one moment. Do I look like a tomato? So this is what it looks like in the end. As you can tell, it's like 5 feet tall, which I'm a little taller than 5 feet. Let me get out of here. So the plan is to overlap it by 1. I don't have the zip ties on, so obviously it's a little bit harder. But basically, this is what it's gonna look like. I don't know if you can see what it looks like, but this is effectively going to be it. And so determinate tomatoes won't actually need as tall just because they tend to grow about hip-ish length, and indeterminates, you know, depending on weather, can grow forever and ever. But I'm hoping that this is a good multi-use thing where I can put cucumbers in here or pole beans, or I don't know, I plan to experiment with a bunch of stuff. But this is basically what it looks like. And so, as I had mentioned earlier, one thing to consider is that this is not galvanized, meaning that it already has rust on it and the rust will just get worse. And, but so, funny story. So I wanted to paint it in like really pretty colors. And so I had bought 3 cans of Rust-Oleum in the primary colors, bright red, bright, yeah, hi turkey boys, bright red, bright blue, and bright yellow. And I've never used spray paint before, and I don't know if I'm a bad spray painter or something like that, but I had 3 of like the sheets, not rolled up, but 3 of the curved sheets or whatever of the trellises. And I ran out of my first can like on half of it. And I was like, what the heck? Because it didn't seem like a cost efficient way. So I did go out, let me set this down, make sure it doesn't unravel and bite me. Okay. So these are what I purchased at first, this Rust-Oleum. And like I said, I don't know anything about spray paint, so perhaps I spray painted wrong or something like that. But And those cans were, I think, $6 or so for per can. So I went out and bought, this is Ace, so it's not Rust-Oleum, but it's, I'm assuming, the same thing. And I bought the same colors in safety yellow and safety red and safety blue, because that sounded like bright, beautiful colors to mix up in the greenhouse, and little sponge painter things. And so the new plan, the updated plan, instead of spray painting them, is just to run the brush along them and make them look good. So I guess we'll go to that next. Just one moment. Okay, so this is very safety yellow. I meant to say that these cans were, I think, $16.99, and I bought the three, the red, the yellow, and the red. But yeah, so I guess we'll see if it works better. So you can see here the yellow that I've already done, and it kind of covered it like just barely, but then it ran out. So I'm hoping this works, because if not, then I'm just gonna have rust colored trellis, which I'm not necessarily opposed to, but I kind of want the bright colors. Okay, apparently I don't know how to paint using a sponge brush. If I'm doing this wrong, I apologize in advance. I'm not really sure how to paint these, especially fast, which I feel like I'm dripping all over. Well, I think what I'll probably do is finish this off camera and then show you the end result. So I will be back. Yay, the trellis is painted. So I will be honest with you, I did not love the painting process. As a side note, I do not like painting in general. I think a lot of other people really like painting. I don't like painting at all. The trellis especially seemed to be especially difficult because of all of like the little corners and sides and all of that stuff, and the amount of time it was taking. And I'm curious if it's feasible to do with, like, if I just had a few, like if I was doing 4, it wouldn't be a problem, or a few, you know, but doing like 20 of them, it seems a little too painstaking. So if I'm going to be painting, all of them is going to be up in the air. But I didn't love the painting. I do love the color, but I didn't love the painting. But what I do love is the trellis. Now, obviously it's still wet, so I have not connected them, you know, with the rebar, or sorry, with the zip ties, and then use like a stake to put it in the ground or whatnot. But I love the axis holes to grab all of the beautiful tomatoes. I love the height. And so I believe it depends, of course, on how many I can get made in my already jam-packed busy schedule. I know we all have so many things going on in our life. But for the cherry tomatoes, I'm going to use those cattle panels with the U-posts that are in the row. And for my determinate tomatoes, I think I'm going to use, it depends if I can get enough of these made. If not, I'm going to use the old tried and trusty, these tomato cages. Again, these are not for indeterminate tomatoes. These are only for determinate because they grow about hip high or so. And then for my indeterminates, I'm going to use this trellis. So fingers crossed, I think it's going to be a pretty good winning combination. And so I need to make about 20 of these. I hopefully will not have to paint 20 of them. But anyways, I wanted to share how I made them and what I have going on in my farm. And if you found the information helpful, I hope it was. And if you've made it this far, go ahead and put a like on the video. That really helps support me, and I really appreciate it. If you have any tips for either myself or the fellow gardeners about trellising or painting metal or any of that stuff, just drop those down below. I really appreciate it. Thank you for watching. Happy gardening. Have a great day. Bye.